You are listening to the Beyond the High Road podcast with Shelby Milford, episode number 112. Stay tuned. Welcome to Beyond the High Road, a podcast dedicated to healing your heart and life following the grief of alienation. I'm your host, Shelby Milford, a twice certified life coach specializing in post-traumatic growth. If you're experiencing the effects of alienation and you're ready to heal, then this show is my love letter to you. Stay tuned. Hey guys, so I keep forgetting to do announcements. So just quickly, just the reg stuff I haven't mentioned in a while. I've extended a thank you to all of those who have put in a review on Apple. At this point, I think that's still the only place that you can actually submit a show review. However, on Spotify now, you can make comments on individual episodes, on questions you might have, and or comments that you have about like what you liked, what you didn't like, requests even. And I love those. I love the engagement and encourage that because I do look at them as soon as I get the notification. Sometimes it takes a little bit for the system, like for Spotify or for Apple, to push the notifications through. So thank you for those. And I encourage those. And I do get to those as soon as I get the notification from Spotify. And then on Apple, if you do listen on Apple or you have any Apple products, I would love if you would write a review. Just a couple words would be amazing. We have so many listeners now, like compared to the amount of reviews that we have, there's over 1,000, at least, of you. I haven't even checked in a while, but there's well over 1,000 listeners, regular weekly listeners. And there are 38 reviews. Thank you to all 38 of you for writing reviews. Some of those people have written 2 times. So 30-ish of you that have written those reviews, taken your precious time out of your day to write those. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I really, if you guys are enjoying this, or maybe not thoroughly enjoying it always, but you feel like it's working for you and you know that the show's been helpful for you, please, I would love if you would help another alienated parent out and help me out too by letting them all know, letting the world know that we're here. The more word that we get out, the more parents that we can help. So that's what I would ask of you. And you know what, in return, I promise, as I have from the beginning, to keep getting better and more engaging content and making improvements to the show as much as I can. So there's that. Also, I am live in the Facebook group every Friday, noon-ish. I think I've got it set for 12:15 right now. That actually just happened because I did it by accident and then I just kept it because. So 12:15 noon on Fridays in the private Facebook group. Okay? So today, before I even begin, I really want to name this episode Things I've Learned or Lessons I've Learned from Tony Robbins, because it seems like everything I want to talk about today keeps circling back to a couple of videos, like old videos. One of them actually from not too long ago, within this last year-ish, and then another one from years ago. But I think that everything I'm going to talk about today is really kind of Tony Robbins, which I kind of have gotten away from. Like, he was really, really influential in the beginning of my healing. And then I followed some different teachers for a while, and he's always sort of been etched into the foundation of my core beliefs when it came to healing. But really what we're going to be talking about is what it takes for you to move from the pain of alienation and move from the pain of really pretty much any trauma. And I'm going to answer the question right off the bat and tell you that, and this is borrowed from Tony Robbins too, maybe not the exact quote, but what it takes to move you from any of the pain or trauma that you feel like you're stuck in is you valuing something, anything, more than you value the pain that you're in. And I know that sounds kind of crazy at first to think about, because most people are like, what do you mean? Of course I don't value the pain I'm in. I don't like where I'm at. Of course, I want to move from it. I've been trying to get out of it and I can't. I just feel stuck. And if you're stuck in any place, but especially pain, you feel like you just can't get any traction. It's because actually you're gaining a benefit. Somewhere in you, like your primitive brain, believes that it's better for you to be in this spot than anywhere else, right? Kind of like the devil that you know. We as humans, we crave familiarity or consistency, certainty. And so even though the pain feels unbearable and like awful, it also, your brain, your habit brain is absolutely fine with staying in this pain because it knows in this pain, at least, that you're not going to die. Because that's what it always boils down to in the end, even though the words "I'm going to die" aren't often on your mind, especially this day and age. That's really what any fear boils down to, right? The fear of dying, and really it's the fear of our story ending. But so often we sit in the pain of alienation, of whoever has wronged us in the past, of our childhood, of whatever you're allowing to define you today. We sit in that pain because in that pain, y'all, if I'm going to say this, and I know I've said it in a lot of other ways throughout these episodes, but just know that I know that if somebody were to say this to me, like to my face, back just a few years ago, I would have been really upset and maybe there would have been a casualty because I would not have been happy for somebody to say that I was using my awful situation of alienation, this predicament of being victimized, to my advantage in any way, or that I was like holding on to it for the benefit of me, right? I would have been so pissed off. So I get it. I understand. But looking back, it was absolutely true that I was holding on to my pain because it felt much safer to hold on to the pain of what was happening as a way to explain away why my life was in the state it was back then. What they did to me, that's why I haven't advanced professionally. That's why my kid's not home with me. That's why I'm driving this rinky-dink car that always needs servicing or whatever you're saying. Conversely, you know that you're living the life that is worthy of you and the life that you're meant to lead if you do not have a desire or urge to escape your life, right? To escape the circumstances of your life and like tolerate your life. What I mean here is like, if you notice that you want to go stick your head in the sand during uncomfortable moments, or like when you have to face the quote unquote consequences of your actions in your life today. That would have been me when it came to going to court, to ever having to confront the current state of my life, right? Instead, I wanted to go blow off steam. I wanted to go decompress. And what that usually meant was going and having a toddy or 10. I needed to dull the emotions with some sort of numbing agent. And usually it was alcohol, but if not, it was my daughter or some other outside agent, not by utilizing the skills that I possess inside me to manage my mind and therefore my emotions. So I just kept repeating the same actions and the same behaviors, the same habits. And I kept producing the same results over and over and over again because I didn't want to look at what was going on, take ownership of the decisions that I had made that got me to the courthouse or got me to shitty relationship number 20, right? I didn't want to take responsibility. It was much easier for me to be like, well, I'm like this because they did this. I'm like this because they didn't do this or because whatever. And I was a victim. Like I was on many occasions treated in ways that I would not want anybody, and even my worst enemy, to be treated like. So I was legit, just like I know that you guys are, in a lot of the positions I was in as a direct result of people's ugly behavior. Absolutely. But I also believe today that those situations, those people, those achy circumstances of my life were always going to happen that way. And that in fact, they happened for me. They were my prescription. They were my curriculum. They were always going to happen. That was just part of my journey. So instead of looking at them as the deterrents or the roadblocks in my life, instead, they were actually there to enrich who I'm becoming, right? But back then, I didn't see it that way. And that was really the whole problem. So I wanted to continue to avoid my life because then I didn't have to sit with my poor decisions about why I got, into the last shitty relationship or why I was in court to begin with for custody. How my decisions to go to a bar or whatever, maybe all the other parents did that. But I also knew that at that point, it wasn't a shocker that my ex was going to use whatever he could to incriminate me. And so it was my decision knowing that he would try to do whatever he could. And I still did it in spite of that, thinking, well, he can't do that to me. That was a decision that I could have lived with back then. I did live with the decision, but I didn't address it back then. I kept blaming and blaming and blaming. And all of that blame, all it did was waste my time, my energy, my money, my potential for emotional development. And instead, it just put me like in a freeze frame for a really long time. Because here's the thing about it. This is the kicker is once you do it once, whatever action that you do, and sometimes that means non-action, like you decide to stay in denial. Once you do that in one situation, then it's easier to do it the next time. And then it's easier to do it again and again. And each time that you choose to do it, it gets reinforced by your habit brain. Habit brain gets the message that we're getting a benefit from this, even if that benefit is just that you stay comfortable and ignorance is bliss, like not dead and not hurt. Habit brain goes, chink, that's a win for us. We're still alive. So it's going to reinforce that to the point that it makes that your default way to avoid, to not take the responsibility. Oh, yeah, let's just defer that off. Let's just push that let's divert attention and keep on our merry way. And what that ends up doing is creating this whole fortress of denial and stagnancy. You're not growing at all. And if we're not growing, then you're actually defying your own humanness, right? You're resisting the whole Earth's, Mother Nature's, whatever you want to say, the universe's need to constantly evolve. We're constantly, all of us, even physically without even thinking about it, our systems are changing and cells are turning over. Your hair is growing. Some hair is falling out. Things are changing on you at a cellular level. Constant. And when you decide to, nope, I'm not going to do anything about that. I'm just going to pretend like it's not here. I'm going to go take some outside numbing agent, whether that's alcohol like I did, or whether that's a person or an activity, or you're scrolling, anything to avoid the current circumstances of your life so that you can avoid the discomfort you feel. You're choosing to resist and stay stagnant when everything else is evolving, turning over. It ends up being this negative force within you. Yet you'll keep wanting to blame other people for your stuckness. Well, at least I did. I was stuck and I felt like it was a fact that I was stuck. There was nothing I could do because first my identity, like when I became a mom, the second that when I became pregnant, but when I had my daughter, I grew into this new role as a mom. And I was a mom, and that's what defined me. And I didn't even think about it. Most of us don't. Well, you become parents, and it's like, oh, I have this new role. I can put this on. This is who I am. I'm a dad now. I'm a parent now. And I'm going to live my life accordingly. And so you don't really have to do much in order to take that role on, right? It's just a sort of a fact of life almost. Like it's just instinctually what's in you to then embody whatever a parent is in your mind, what that looks like, what was modeled to you. But that is just something that we kind of all take on. It's not like for me, it wasn't like I had to step out on a limb to make that part of my identity. It really literally kind of, can't say it by happenstance. It was sort of a cause effect situation. I had sex, and then got pregnant and had a baby. And so all of a sudden I'm a mom. I didn't have to go far to come to that conclusion that I'm a mom, right? Same thing with being a daughter or a sister. It's just sort of like the biology of you and of your family. And then after shit started going down, I was a mom who had been wronged. That was my identity. Like I really carried that with me. Like I'm a mom in turmoil. I am a mom who has been abused and has been forced into a very unfortunate situation. And I'm a mom who is in constant stress response and is fighting for her life and her daughter's life and her daughter's happiness and growth. I was in a constant freak out. And I was that way because other people kind of decided that for me. That wasn't anything that, again, I did not have to step out on a limb or do any sort of risky self-discovery there. It just came on me. I was at the effect of the circumstances that were presented to me. And then, after some time of going to court and doing all the things, I was this mom who had been wronged, but really wanted to be more. But I felt like I couldn't be more because I was stuck, because of all the things that happened. So I saw that there was possibility out there for me, like there was another way. I didn't have to continue defining myself as this damsel in distress, if you will, or like this mother in distress. There was another way, but I felt like there was too much in between the current version of me and the place I wanted to be. The place I wanted to be up there just seemed like a pipe dream. Like, how could I even try to get there? Because look what I'm drowning in right now. The circumstances of my life and the results that were in my life at that time, I was not fully ready. Even though I wanted to be up there, I was not ready to take responsibility for all of this, because taking responsibility of all of this and the results of my life back then meant that I had to confront the fact that I might be responsible. Yes, even for the alienation, in the way that, no, I did not obviously ask for it, and nor was it my fault. These people are obviously acting not nicely. I still was the one that chose it, and I still continued to feed into it and maybe made some poor decisions back then. Who could have known? I don't believe that now I don't fault myself for those decisions most of the time, but I also know that I was not taking responsibility of my life. And that's really where I fault myself, is because I chose to numb as opposed to look at the uncomfortable stuff. So I see the comments a lot on my TikTok videos and stuff. I can't even tell you how many times I've seen this one type of comment. Hold on, let me turn this because the sun's coming in. That family court is abusing us parents. Some form of that. And I'm not saying that there isn't truth to that, but what I think is that this is not serving whoever is writing it, whoever is choosing to believe it. That's just one of many, but we are so easily influenced, all of us. It's not a matter of being like weak-minded. We're so easily swayed. And so it's so important to really question the beliefs that you're choosing to go with, right? About explaining your life away. Before, when I was believing that I was a victim to my life, and that if these things wouldn't have happened, all of them, individually and as a whole, if those wouldn't have happened, then I would have had a better life. If I just wouldn't have done ABC, then things would be better and my daughter would be home with me. I would still have my house and my money and what have you. I can believe those things, and it is easy. It would be so easy to just assign blame elsewhere and look at my life. The state of my life right now is it's in shambles, and it's all because of them. Your brain is going to want to accept that as the answer for why you're in pain. It wants to take that and die with that, right? At least mine did. But believing that kept me in this state of constant pain, suffering, stagnancy. Believing that caused me to feel and stay negative, feel on guard, and make up stories in my mind about how the world works, for me at least, out there. right? That breaks didn't come to people like me, and that making money would always be a struggle. Having relationships would always be a struggle, that I would never have the ability to choose somebody, like healthy for me because I was damaged as a kid. And that's never true. Actually, the most full lives and the most fulfilling relationships, if you were to meet your soulmate, or maybe you already have, but really, truly the only way that I see to have any sort of deep connection with anybody or create any sort of really meaningful experience, you have had to have had some suffering in your life. And so I would actually venture to say that those who have suffered the most and been through the most pain actually create the most meaning from their lives. And this may be a little far-fetched for some of you, maybe not so much for others, but I believe that before we're even born into this world, our souls, each of our souls, like for me, my soul chose each and every one of the outcomes that have happened so far in my life. Like I chose the life of struggle and of feeling insignificant. Because, and this goes back to Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins talks about our 6 basic needs are certainty, uncertainty, significance, feeling significant, connection, the need to grow, and the need to contribute, service work, right? Those are our 6 basic needs. And for me, I believe that I chose this struggle of wanting to feel significant and not having that fulfilled. Today, my number one driver is actually growth, but I changed that over the years. For a long time, I felt a lacking of significance since I was a little kid. So I believe that my soul chose the difficult route on purpose so that my soul could grow and move through this. This is like the area that I was going to struggle with. And I have a feeling that if you're listening to this podcast and you're dealing with something like alienation, that attacks that very need that we all have to feel significant, leave a legacy, feel important to those around us, those that we love. This might be something that you've been struggling with too. And maybe this is your ultimate life lesson. One of them anyway, is significance and the struggle with learning how to feel like you belonging without the approval of anybody else. Right? But anyway, so as a kid, that was always where I struggled, right? I did not feel significant. Really, I was the youngest child, but there was just only 2 of us, forgotten because my brother was the problem child. And so I sort of fended for myself. So it started from an early age, and I always wanted to feel like recognized, important, unique. Some people will use that for their benefit, go on to do great things with their lives. If that doesn't seem to be like an option, if you have had some trauma in your life, then many times what we will do, instead of excelling in one area and feeling significant that way, we can go the darker route and feel significant by being the troublemaker, right? Getting in trouble to get the attention, which is exactly what I did, right? I was like, oh, my brother gets attention that way. Maybe that's what I should do. And then maybe they'll give me attention like they did him. And that did work for a little while. And then I turned 18, and then I was like, oh, I don't know what to do anymore, because I taught myself this way of being a troublemaker. Didn't work out the way I had it planned in my mind. But then all the relationships that I sought out were those that I was consistently trying to feel significant, feel valued from the other people, right? And because of that, plus the trauma, who did I seek out? People that wanted to maybe extort that, right? Or use that to their advantage. I sought out a particular kind of person. So that's what got me into the whole mess. And then, of course, when we get alienated, what do we struggle with again? We struggle with that need to feel significant. We feel that we're devalued, that we're undermined, that we're not, important. And so it attacks that, for me anyway. Like I said, I feel like it's my theory that that had been our driving force, probably from childhood, but definitely in the relationship with the person who's alienating our kids from us now, is that need to feel significant. And then because we picked the kind of person that would not fulfill that for us, instead they would try to take that from us, it only injures the very thing that we were after the whole time, right? So it backfires in our face. At least it did for me. And so I really had to learn how to not define myself, identify myself by being a mom, being a mom who was wronged, being a mom who was eternally stuck after being wronged and wanted to be there, but could only get here because of the bad decisions and the bad relationships and what have you. There was always an outside reason for why I wasn't where I was supposed to be. And I know that I could still find all the outside reasons if I wanted to and not take responsibility for my life. But I have learned, and it became very boring to me to constantly point the finger outwards. I'm this way. My life is this way because of them, because of my family, because of my upbringing, because I was ignored, because of whatever, right? Because I was physically abused, sexually abused, whatever, right? I kept choosing these things because I thought that that was all I was worth. And then I used those things later on, even though I hated those predicaments, to explain away my life. And it only just kept me in this constant state of living a pitiful life, you know? And I'm not downing myself or you if you feel like you're in that spot right now. I'm actually hoping that you maybe can identify how this pattern might be going on with you now, or at least was before, so that you can work with it now and get yourself unstuck if that's where you want to be, right? Because the sticking the head in the sand is a temporary Band-Aid that produces a very long-term result, negative result on your life, and reinforces that habit. And so then it becomes harder and harder and harder to move from it. The other thing that I was thinking about is that it's proven in neuroscience that we will find what we're tasking our brain to look for. Tony Robbins he did an interview with Theo Vaughn back, I don't know, within this year, but I think he's done this a few times, where he asked him to, and you guys can do this right now if you're at home and you're not driving, look around you for all the things that are brown. Just do a scan of the room and find everything brown. Okay, you got them? Then close your eyes. Now tell me all the things that you saw that were red. It's hard, right? Because you were looking for brown. Now, open your eyes and look for all the things red. You could find a lot more red, right? Do you know why? It's because you're looking for it. Because you're looking for the red, and that's all you will see is the red will stand out at you. You can do this with any color, right? Or you can do this with any kind of object. They tell you to do this too if you lost an item. If you picture what the color is and also whether it's smooth or rough, the chances of you finding it are much greater. Like, you ever have been with your parents, they'll ask you to go get something for them and you couldn't find it, something in the fridge. And then they walked right over and then grabbed the thing right in front of your eyes, but you really legit did not see it, right? You didn't see it because you weren't actually looking for it. Your brain wasn't on task for it because it probably was thinking about a million other things or believing that the item was somewhere else, right? Even when you're looking hard for it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I used to lose things. I still do, but it's not nearly as bad. I used to lose my phone, my keys all the time. Now I have a car with no keys, thank God. But I used to lose them every day, all the time. And even though I knew what I was looking for, it was impossible for me to find them, even though many times I would pass the keys over many times before I actually, my brain actually registered that those were my keys and I could pick those up. Because in my head, do you know what I was focused on? I was focused on, I can't find my keys. I always lose stuff. So that's what my brain was focused on, losing stuff, not finding stuff. It wasn't focused on the actual shape and color and size and texture of them. Instead, it was thinking about all the ways that I lose all the shit in my life. Well, guess what? That actually caused me to have those things still missing, right? And the same thing, like when I asked you to look for all the brown and then have you close your eyes and then look for all the red, it was difficult to find that, right? And probably too, while you were looking for each of the colors, you probably bent the rules a little bit just because you wanted to believe that whatever things that you were on task to find were that color. Like when I asked you how many of those things were red, you might have made the thing that was maybe orange-ish, become red, just so that you could be successful in the whole game of finding all the things red. So it's crazy what your brain will do to influence you, to sway your decisions and sway your beliefs about what is true for you and what is not. Going back to those parents that talk about family court is just there to abuse parents. It's just there to make money. If that's what you want to believe, you will find all of the evidence to support that and the ways that it's backed up and affected your life, right? The ways that like, oh, that was abuse too. That attorney probably knew all along that the end result would be whatever it was. It was a setup the whole time, right? That's how we start to believe and think. It's way easier to believe that it's them that's causing it than taking responsibility of the common denominator in the situation. Like, this has just been problem after problem. Yes, I'm not saying that the courts aren't fucked up, guys. Please know that I'm not saying that. There's a lot of reform to be done there, 100%. But I'm saying that also, too, if you are looking for the evidence to support that the family courts are just there to fuck you, then you're going to find it. And you know what it's going to do is produce a result in your life that's not good. Now, if your belief is, I don't like the way the family courts are, and I'm going to be part of the change, I'm going to be part of the solution. I'm going to vote for judges. I'm going to vote for change. I'm going to go to the lawmakers and to the state capitals and be part of the change. That is one thing, and that's going to produce a very good result for you, probably a better result for you than thinking that family courts are just there to fuck you, that family courts are there to fuck all parents without money, that family courts are just there to make money off of people. That is not going to give you the kind of result that you ultimately want. And it's actually working against you. Though in the moment, it feels much better to be able to say, look, it's them. Look what they've done, because then you don't have to take inventory and take responsibility for the current state of your life. But it produces an undesirable result. I mean, I'd have to say, argue every single time. And it keeps you, us, whoever's doing this, in a place, and we all do it. I think it's just part of the healing process to go through that resistance and blame and trying to figure out and being able to take responsibility and ownership, because you're already being persecuted. You're already being judged and accused of being a less than person, parent, member of society, right? By this person who's alienating your kids from you. So it makes sense why you would be so protective of yourself and want to place the blame, because you have been wronged. We've all been wronged. Our children have been very wronged. That is a legit, it is a valid point. And also, if you let that define you and you are the parent that has been wronged, that is all you will produce in your life. And then you'll sit there twiddling your thumbs and wondering why you're feeling stuck. This is why, because you're not able to produce any change when the ones outside of you are the ones that are creating the problems to begin with. So in order to not act on default and be swayed by social media, by the negative influences in your life, by your children even, or the circumstances of your life thus far, right? To not fall into that negative outlook on life, you must actually move from your brain and your body's desire to not exert the effort and want to stay familiar. And you have to be the swayer, the influencer of your mind and your body and your life. You have to intentionally put yourself out there in harm's way, if you will, and step out on a limb and dare to be the definer of your own life and not rest on your laurels and say, my current state, the ugliness of my life right now is because of other people, but instead have the courage to stand up and say, it's really my choices that got me here. Not to beat yourself up. Please don't do that. And please don't misconstrue what I'm saying here. I mean, be able to stand on that and like, all right, now what? Like, how can I define myself from here that like, I'm not just a mom who was wronged, but I'm a mom who is out there getting my hands dirty and active in the trenches of my own life and the lives of others. I'm promoting change within our community and promoting change within myself. I strive to keep growing. That really is my number one driver. I really thrive on the growth, right? On evolving myself and helping to evolve others, other parents. But what was the biggest change for me was belonging to my own self, which I believe I did an episode on that a while back. But working on supplying for yourself that which you have been sort of trained to look to others to fulfill for you. And when I say trained, I just think that socially we've been brought up to think that way, that others bring us happiness, that others are responsible for bringing us happiness or bringing us whatever it is that we need in our emotional life. And it's actually what others bring to the table is, the icing on the cake. So you stay in the pain. You stay in the pain because the pain is providing you some sort of benefit. And so for me, like I said, that pain was providing me an excuse to stay in certainty, in stagnancy, in the devil that I knew. And it also, staying in the pain provided me with a feeling of significance in that I felt special, set apart because of what had happened to me. Yeah, but that doesn't apply to me because I'm an alienated parent. I didn't fit into the parent or mom group, but I didn't fit with the single people or the people that never had kids. I was like this exception to all the rules. And even though it was miserable and very lonely, like isolating, right? And I know you guys can all understand that, it also gave me this feeling of being set apart and being unique, which I thought, in a way, I didn't think this on the conscious level, but I thought it was fulfilling that need to feel significant. So you either make something of your life and like excel in some certain areas, become a doctor or spinal surgeon or whatever, or you go the other route and you stand out by being the black sheep. Sometimes as alienated parents, I think that if all the other avenues didn't work and we're not excelling at something in a positive way, then we just learn to excel at fucking up in a way, at underachieving. And I know that this is a painful truth. At least it was for me to take on. I found this on my own. And so nobody ever told me this. But like I said, I think if somebody were to tell me this, that I would have definitely resisted it. It would have made me very angry to think that I was causing this or staying in this because it was by choice, because I was wanting to feel special or unique from my pain. Because really, honestly, I wanted anything but being in that awful, awful suffering and pain that we all know so well as a result of feeling alienated, feeling excavated from our own children's lives. It's a pain that I wouldn't wish on anybody. But I also, because I couldn't find a way to thrive through it, I chose to single myself out because of it. And that provided me with that significance in an awful way. And it also provided me with that certainty of at least I know this. There's a lot of predictability in this. I don't have to risk failure. Like I can just use the other people's choices to do what they did as an excuse for the rest of my life. And that is why I felt like I was at the bottom of a pit with no exit doors back in the day. That was my visual from this fucking life on earth, but really living in hell place. I didn't want to risk my own disappointment in myself if I couldn't make it past the hump, because then what? What would that mean about me if I dropped that persona, that identity of the battered, abused, alienated mom and wife? What if I dropped that? Then who the fuck was I? That is really, truly, it gave me this sense of certainty and security, because at least I was something. Who was I without that? I didn't know. And that was even scarier, Like who if I'm not this mom that devoted her whole life to her child, which, by the way, again, I will say, as much as I take so much pride in my motherhood, right, and being a mom, even though I'm not doing it actively like I wanted to be before, it is a noble position, all the active moms out there, that I would take back in a heartbeat. But I will also say that it wasn't It wasn't a feat to take on that role. It wasn't me risking anything to step into those shoes, In fact, it was just sort of the evolution of me, right? Oh, now I'm a mom. This is what I do. There was no risk involved. There was huge risk in letting go of that as my only definer, right? As my only anchor into the world. But that anchor was actually keeping me in a hell that I would never want to be in again. So what is keeping you in the pain of your situation of alienation most likely is some iteration of that, of not wanting to let go of this story, of this identity that you've created for yourself because of what you're willing to see and the story that you're willing to retell to yourself, right? And reinforce for yourself about why your life is currently the way it is. And if you continue to retell that story about why your life is currently the way it is because of somebody else, your life will never change. Not by your hand anyway. And I don't want that for you. And I know that you don't want that for you. So in order to create something new, you have to think and believe something new. Dare to believe something new about you and about what you're capable of and about even what your identity is now today. I will always identify myself as mom, always, because she is my love. She's my heart. She is just part of me. And I will always continue to find ways to exercise that God-given right to mother her, But also I am so much more. I am a mom who's been through hell and now has paved her way back by helping herself and helping all of you out there. I'm a mom who strives to and thrives to learn and suck in all of the data and information and helpful tools and concepts in neuroscience and psychology that I can in order to reinterpret and then regurgitate to you to help you and to support you to become your highest version of yourself. That's really who I am today. I'm a mom. I'm a phoenix rising from the ashes. No, but it's not that I don't even think about it as that I have been wronged anymore. That was just part of, they were my ex. Now I'm still working on the stepmom, but he was just a pawn in my development. And I know that for my daughter, I truly believe that I have to believe for me, that's my choice, is that it's also doing the same thing for her. It's just that her road is started much sooner than mine. And I really, of course, as a mom, hope that she never has to go through the pain that I ever went through. I also have to trust that she too, her soul chose this route for her, right? She chose this and it was always meant to happen this way so that she could get to her highest version of herself, right? Knowing that regardless of what happens, her soul will always rise above all of this earthly pain that we have. And I know that sounds a little far out for some of you, but I do think it's important. For me, it was important to gain some perspective on life aside from my little world, right? That there was bigger purpose and meaning to all of this. And I choose to believe that it's because these are the lessons that I chose. This was the pathway that I chose for myself beforehand, knowing that in the end, I'm going to get to exactly where I'm supposed to be, learning the lessons that I'm supposed to learn. If I'm constantly choosing to dive straight in to the waves, and I'm willing to stay open and out of denial, if I'm willing to face everything and move towards it, if I were, let's say, if I were somebody that continued to deny, tried to buffer or numb myself out of the current state of my life, then I think I would probably perish and because I would have been resisting the constant evolution, something bad, probably quote unquote bad would happen to me. And then I believe that I would have had to come right back to this world again and experience all of the same exact circumstances in another life until I decided to face it. And who knows, maybe that's what happened to me before. I don't know. I don't really get into the whole other lives things, but I truly believe that that's what happens. People that decide to check out early or not to face the stuff the lessons are there for a reason. And so in some way, shape, or form, I truly believe that you will end up facing them, whether it's this life or another. Okay, so that's what I have for you. That was a lot of talking. I've got a lot of editing to do. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening today. If you like what you're hearing and you'd like to hear more, please make sure to click subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. Also, for bite-sized clips and tips, be sure to find me on TikTok or Instagram. See you next week.